Welcome to Ranger Reviews, a web series where we look at episodes of the TV show Power Rangers and then discuss them. Today we're doing an overview of the entire season of Power Rangers Lost Galaxy and talking about what worked, what didn't, what could have been done a little bit differently. First and foremost, if you haven't watched any of these episodes before, there are 45 videos before this one going into minute detail about how each individual episode fared. This season starts with the introduction to the legend of the Quasar Sabers. They're 5 ancient sabers that have been placed in a rock on a planet called Miranoi. People are trying to free them from the rock as only the chosen warriors can do, but no go for anyone. Then they're attacked by a group of bug creatures called Stingwingers, and we meet our first general, Furio. TerraVenture, a giant space colony, will be leaving Earth soon, getting ready to go find a new world. There's no mention of how badly Earth is doing or anything, it's just kinda going off into space for fun, I guess. We're also told by a narrator that this takes place in the not too distant future. We meet the main characters at this point. Mike Corbett, a high up in the command soldier with Commander Stanton. There's also Kai Chen, a goody two-shoes, and Kendrix Morgan, a scientist. Also, Bulk and Phenomenus are going to get onto TerraVenture, and they forget Skull at home. And ironically, the season forgets about their existence for most of it. We also meet Mike's little brother, Leo Corbett, who, long story short, becomes a stowaway and gets on the TerraVenture, and then getting mixed up with everything later, he ends up faking as a soldier during a training session on the moon. Yeah, things suck for Leo. A portal opens on Miranoi and it spits a girl named Maya out on the other side, and everyone except for Kai goes running through the portal to help Miranoi, which makes Kai feel bad because he wasn't a good person or whatever. And then we find out that the mega ship from in space is now a museum, being maintained by a mechanic named Damon Henderson. Kai and him use the mega ship to get to Miranoi somehow, and long story short, everyone except for Leo pulls out a Quasar Saber in an attack, but then Mike gets tossed down a crevice and Leo takes his saber. Ta-da! 5 brand new color-coded Power Rangers ready for action and 1 solidly dead brother. We meet our main bad guy Scorpius, who lives on the spaceship called the Scorpion Stinger with his daughter Trakina. Alpha 6 from the megaship also bounces in and out of the season a lot, which I genuinely forgot about until this rewatch. I didn't remember Alpha being in Lost Galaxy at all. The Rangers each have giant galactic beasts which can turn into Zords and form the Galaxy Megazord. Maya can speak with them because she's basically a participant at Birding Man. After a couple introductory episodes, we find out that there's a great power called the Lights of Orion, and the Rangers want to make sure the bad guys don't get it. We're introduced to a third faction, Magna Defender, a brooding, angry warrior whose son, Zika, was murdered by Scorpius in cold blood in front of him. And we see Zika's death scene a lot. Oh, speaking of death, Leo kills Furio like super easily. The Rangers want the Magna Defender to fight for good with them, but he says no. He wants the lights for his own revenge. Also, a new general has appeared named Trecheron, who has a personal vendetta against the Magna Defender. After searching for the lights in some dumb ways, everyone finds them, but then the lights are released and they escape into space, leaving. Don't worry though, they turn right back around and give themselves up to the Power Rangers, who now have armor, add-ons, and powers. Magna Defender and his giant Taurizord are not happy about it. By the way, he can also get into the Taurizord and make the Defender Taurizord. It's kind of weird to see someone just casually become giant. When the Rangers get the lights though, there's a lot going on. A monster gets the lights, but Trakina sends an imposter monster to get the lights for herself to make Trecheron look incompetent. This leads to Trecheron actually targeting Trakina next in retaliation, but it doesn't really matter because Leo kills Trecheron. Heads up, Leo's kinda overpowered. Magna Defender also has a redemption moment where he realizes how he's good or whatever thanks to his dead son, and he sacrifices himself to save TerraVenture. It's been revealed that he's been living off of Mike's life force this entire time, because he was actually put into the same crevice as Mike thousands of years prior by Trecheron. Mike is now alive and back, and he's quickly given the responsibility of being the Magna Defender. Spoiler alert, Mike doesn't really feel like he needs to be around a lot. After a few more filler episodes, one of which has an important part where the Rangers complete a rescue mission from a spaceship nearby and they find what they deem to be the Galaxy Book, we find out that there's 3 missing Galactabeasts. A Phoenix, a Falcon, and a Shark, known as the Stratoforce Megazord, the Centaurus Megazord, and the Zenith Carrier Zord. They're brought to Scorpius by a new general named Deviat who wants to usurp Trakina and take over from Scorpius. Every villain is super evil and selfish this season, and it's great. Scorpius has made a cocoon for Trakina too, and he wants her to go full bug, and she's like, ew, no. And the Rangers get control over Stratoforce, Centaurus, and Zenith. Also, Scorpius really pushes for Trakina to become full on bug, and she bails, going to the planet Onyx to meet Villamax, a warrior who trains her intensely, and he really just helps her become a strong warrior. Scorpius fights the Rangers one-on-one because Deviat lies and says that the Rangers have kidnapped Trakina, and Leo kills Scorpius once and for all. Again, Leo kills everyone, including his brother. Trakina finds out coming back and then she ends up taking over, much to Deviat's anger because he wanted to inherit the Scorpion Stinger. Nope. She locks the cocoon away, now stronger than ever from training. Villamax and his sidekick Kegler come with her. After a lot of filler episodes, one of which Leo gets a new motorcycle, the Psycho Rangers are revived by Deviat, who has obtained the data cards that they were put into at the end of In Space. They attack Earth, but Andros returns, knowing what's up. He helps the other Rangers take on the Psychos, but not before the other Space Rangers show up, helping the Galaxy Rangers take out the Psychos once and for all. Well, except for Psycho Pink, who Deviant has a plan for. Kendrix learns about a savage sword from the Galaxy book, and she and Cassie go to stop Psycho Pink from getting it, and in the battle, Cassie's morpher is attacked by the sword, which creates a giant power to be siphoned up by Psycho Pink, but it's also hurting Cassie. Kendrix sacrifices herself in the battle, dying in order to help Cassie. R.I.P. Kendrix. Cassie and the others apparently have to go on their own unknown mission, which we never really learn about, so they leave the Galaxy Rangers. Kendrix's Quasar Saber has gone away into space. Turns out it lands in the hands of people in the black market, and in an auction on Onyx, the evil Astronema has returned, purchasing the Quasar Saber, but actually it's just Corone in disguise. Drakina wants the saber, so there's a long battle before Corone almost dies by getting yeeted off a cliff, but Kendrix's spirit saves her, giving her a morpher and allowing her to become the new Pink Galaxy Ranger. Redemption. Corone is worried about her past as Astronema, which somehow leads to her redeeming herself so well, Leo gets a battleizer. Way to go, Corone. Deviant then gets the Galaxy book stolen from inside TerraVenture, and he recites a spell, sending them all into the Lost Galaxy. Also, Deviant gets supercharged, but he isn't good enough to stay that way, so he goes back to normal. Drakina's ship avoids going to the Lost Galaxy, and she just, idles around for 8 episodes. We meet a new villain, Captain Mutiny, and his squad of soldiers known as Swabbies. He also has a general named Barbarax and eventually Hexaba. He feigns niceness at first, only to send TerraVenture a giant monster named Gruncher that almost kills everyone, and he also has a campsite full of slaves. Casual. Deviant joins forces with Mutiny and his giant flying dinosaur with a castle on its back known as Titanosaur. The Rangers spend some time trying to figure out how to get out of the Lost Galaxy, and they do so by legit just reading the spell backwards. But this opens a portal, so they use this time to then free the slaves from Mutiny so everyone gets to safety and Mike stays behind. He ends up sacrificing his Magna Defender powers to make sure everyone gets through, and Leo has to go retrieve his floating limp body in space. He's no longer the Magna Defender, and I guess he kinda completed his mission. In the finale, TerraVenture is really losing fuel reserves, and its engines are going out. Drakina is delighted to see them return from the Lost Galaxy, and then she goes into the cocoon with Deviant on accident, but then she absorbs him, killing him. She starts going a bit psycho, much to Villimax and Kegler's worry. She ends up putting freaking bombs on the Stingwingers, turning them into suicide bombers, and throwing them into TerraVenture. Villimax defies her, and she kills him, and then she completes her transformation in the cocoon. Oh, and Stratoforce and Centaurus are taken out by a suicide bombing via Stingwingers. Who knows what happened to Zenith? TerraVenture has found a new world to land on, which they do, albeit not in TerraVenture, but in emergency shuttles after losing much of the space colony over time, but everyone's safe and sound. Except for Leo, who has crash-landed on a nearby moon. He follows gooey footsteps back to TerraVenture, where eventually, he and the other Rangers have their final battle with Drakina, killing her. Where's Kegler? Probably running around somewhere, I don't know. They then figure out that the new world that they've landed on is actually just Marinoi, and when the Quasar Sabers are replaced in the stone altar in which they came from, everything that was once turned to stone is now back to normal. I like how we totally just colonized someone else's land. This is legit just North America all over again. This also somehow brings Kendrix back from the dead, which I don't love. The end. Okay, so there's a lot here, so let's go character by character a bit. Leo is the Red Ranger, and he sees a little growth, but I don't know if it's enough to count as an arc. I mean, he has serious imposter syndrome about being the Red Ranger because Mike pulled the sword initially, but he eventually accepts it. And other than being the one who kills everyone and gets the coolest stuff, Leo's just kind of a big kid. And he doesn't really get any more serious or take things any more seriously. They try to make it seem like he goes from an irresponsible goofball who leaves a bunch of weapons unlocked to this serious guy, but I don't think he changes that much. Kai is very subtle in changing. He goes from being by-the-book rule stickler to someone who in the final episode bends the rules so that someone can take a photo of their family with them onto the shuttle. He lightens up a bit throughout the series and it shows, although Kai is kind of one note all around. He just kind of slides from one note to the other. Damon's weird. I mean, he doesn't really change as much as he just is revealed more. He's basically cardboard for most of the season, but when they let him be the funny, sarcastic goofball that he is, Damon really shines. I wish there was a lot more focus put on Damon through the show because his actor was fantastic. He definitely could have handled a storyline or two. Maya's a fish out of water, but she doesn't really end up in any more water. I mean, she runs around in her jungle clothes throughout the entire season, and she just seems like she's there. She gets an episode about being a strong woman, which is nice, but that's kind of it for Maya. For someone who could have been a mentor to this group with knowledge about the sabers and whatnot, they really didn't use her much at all. She really just ends up filling a slot on the team most of the time. Kendrix is the hyper-intelligent scientist of the team, and a lot of her development is stunted by her character's early departure. Hard to hold that against them, though. There are whispers of Leo and Kendrick's flirting in the first half of the show that I could see them trying to develop something come the finale, but clearly it was dropped. She was the closest with Kai, kind of translating his professionalism for everyone else. She is much more the heart and soul of this team during her time, which kind of feels like a modern approach to Trini. Mike is like nothing. Seriously, I mean, he's barely there and he only seems to matter in reference to Leo. Any solo episode he gets is more about what's going on than who Mike is. Mike does things, but nothing happens internally to Mike, it seems. I mean, he's just very flat. I mean, he helps free the slaves by volunteering to go, so we find out that he has a good heart, but I'm hard-pressed to find anything Mike does that you couldn't just give to literally any other ranger and have it still work. Lastly, ranger-wise, we have Corone, who's just there. It doesn't matter at all after her initial introduction, and she barely has focus. She turns into a bully against Damon for an episode, pressuring him to get a job he doesn't even want, but other than that, she barely exists. She's just someone else to do karate yells in the vocal booth for the morphed Pink Ranger footage. The villains are the true stars of this season. Scorpius with his daughter Trakina are great, and Trakina really comes through when Scorpius dies, going from a scared little princess to one of the toughest warriors in the galaxy. She accidentally overcorrects, turning into such a psycho that she uses up her entire army of soldiers as suicide bombers. Oops. Furio's like nothing, a blip. But Trecheron is very interesting. He and Trakina don't get along, which leads to his doom. Deviat's a floater who goes from Trakina to mutiny back to Trakina, always plotting something bigger and better for himself, which unfortunately leaves to Trakina absorbing him. Villamax is an honorable warrior who actually dies because he refuses to fight back against Trakina because he doesn't want to agree to a fight. It's an overall bit dumb of a plot, but he adds to the social politics of the Scorpion Stinger overall. It's just a truly fantastic work that's been done with the villains this season. So that's kind of what worked the most, the villains. The Rangers didn't really work at all very well. I mean, we had two goofballs in Leo and Damon, so it's hard to figure out how they're different on paper a bit. Kai is stern and Kendricks is nebulously like the heart and soul. Maya is a fish out of water, but it doesn't really seem to hinder her in any way other than eating a birthday cake because she didn't know what it was, despite her somehow knowing perfect English. Mike might as well have just been a stuffed animal as well as Corone. Hell, I know more about Commander Stanton, the guy who runs the ship, than I do, say, Damon or Kai. I know about Stanton's daughter and how he works a lot, so he likes to spend time with her. I know that he knows when to follow the rules and when to break them, and I know that he's a proud man who hates to fail. I know he can be vulnerable with his officers if he needs to be. Kai? He cooks, and he also likes the rules. Yeah. Honestly, what could have been done differently with this season is so hard to pin down because there's so many plates spinning. The production of this season behind the scenes is an absolute shit show. Let's go through some of that. The show is adapting a nature-themed Sentai series, which is all about Earth, energies, and the elements, but they wanted to make another space show after the success of In Space. Not impossible to do at all, but from a production timeline standpoint, definitely very tricky. Try writing around footage that you don't know if you have yet to watch when changing every single element of the source material. Kinda hard to do. They originally cast a woman named Erin Sims as Maya, the Yellow Ranger. She even filmed at least the first 2 episodes, I believe, because there are production stills of her. And in an interview with Power Rangers superfan Listen Anyway in 2009, she stated that it was complicated as to why she left the show and that she regretted losing focus on acting at that point in her life. To clear it up a bit, the actress of Kendrick stated that she enjoyed her time with Erin before Erin was let go. So sounds like there was an issue with Miss Sims to the point that she was fired and then quickly replaced. Allegedly, there are still shots in the first 2 episodes from behind where it's Erin Sims instead of Maya's final actress, Serena Vincent. So things are back on track and running smoothly until Kendricks' actress Valerie Vernon is diagnosed with leukemia. Obviously she needs to leave the show for treatment, which she does, and they spin their wheels for a bit using stand-ins for Kendricks, and then they just end up writing a slew of episodes which just focus on a single ranger, letting them essentially film 5 episodes simultaneously without requiring any unnecessary focus to be put on the Pink Ranger. She was able to return for the team up in which they kill off Kendricks. Then they planned for Patricia Jolly, aka Cassie from Power Rangers in Space, to stay on as the new Pink Ranger. They even filmed the scene of her taking it on and then began filming the next episode, Forging a Friendship. But then Patricia Jolly allegedly walked off set due to financial disagreements, which now left them, yet again, having filmed things that they can't use. They got Melody Perkins to come back as Corone for the rest of the season. This season was like never meant to happen, it seems, and it really makes you wonder what the actual plan was for the show overall. Were they going to go to the Lost Galaxy earlier where we would have spent a lot more time with Mutiny? I mean, if you remove all the scramble filler episodes and move up the team up, there's about 6 new episodes you have to play with there. There used to be rumors that there was going to be Ancient Rangers storylines that was going to use the unused Die Ranger suits, but I'm pretty sure this has actually been disproven by Judd Lin, writer on this season, by saying that it actually might have just been an idea that was in the writer's room at one point, but nothing was ever scripted out. Luckily, Valerie Vernon made a full recovery in real life, and somehow they got a show on the air on time. I honestly have no idea how. Though many roadblocks in casting and filming alone, I can't even imagine other things that we aren't privy to that might have been going on behind the scenes. Were they scrambling for budgetary cuts because of all the burned footage of Aaron Sims and Patricia Jolie? Is that why The Lost Galaxy even happened? Who knows? It's really hard to say Lost Galaxy is a good season for me. I mean, it's weird that it's definitely some people's absolute favorite because I feel like overall, it's super chaotic and kind of weak. The villains are amazing, but the Rangers are cardboard completely, and I really found myself missing Andros and crew throughout most of the season. None of these guys ever really screamed, "The Power Rangers" to me, and I'm overall just not that into this season. I think it tried its best to be a good season, and I think it really tried its best to just be something in the can for the network at times. And somehow they did it. So, Power Rangers Lost Galaxy. There you go. You exist. That's another thing. Why is it even called Power Rangers Lost Galaxy? I seriously thought it was just a cool name until they made Lost Galaxy a thing. It's better than their other trademark filed on July 21st, 1998. Power Rangers Space Jungle. It was abandoned as of June 30th, 2000, but wow. Imagine we were sitting here talking about Power Rangers Space Jungle. I personally think that's a really bad name. Okay, I've rambled enough. Next up is one of my favorite seasons as a kid. Seriously, I think I was finally old enough to really get Power Rangers at this point, and I was finally in their target demographic with Power Rangers Lightspeed Rescue. And I liked it a lot, so we'll see how I feel about it now. If you like this video or any of my Ranger review videos, please give them a thumbs up and subscribe. I put out new videos every Tuesday and Thursday as we continue to chronicle every episode of Power Rangers, probably until I die. But until next time, may the power protect you.